to worship the deity. And then he went to this temple called, to see this deity called Gopinath. Um, and uh, and that Gopinath deity was being offered this world class kheer or kshir, sweet rice, and he had this desire in his mind, like I wonder like how to make that. Maybe we could make arrangements in our kitchen to also make this particular kind of kheer. Um, and then he felt ashamed because he wanted to. He thought if someone offers me some of that kheer without me asking, because I never ask, then maybe I can try it and figure out how to make it. And then he felt ashamed for thinking about enjoying this boga that was being offered on the altar. It wasn't actually prasad yet. So he felt like he was lusting over the boga. And
Yeah, and he was thinking, I want to taste it just so I can make something similar for my deity. It wasn't even like really a selfish kind of a desire. Like, I hear this is good. I hope I can try it so I can offer that to my deity.
yeah, and then because Krishna knows his heart, he arranged for him to be able to. Well, that's where I got. That's where we got up to. So yeah, that's where we got up to.
That's right. That's as far as we got. Actually, that's what text 120 says. If, without my asking, a little sweet rice is given to me, I can then taste it and make a similar preparation to offer my Lord Gopal. Okay, we're reading a story within a story. Lord Chaitanya is telling this story because they are at that temple, the temple of Kshira Chora Gopinath. Thomas, have you ever read this story before? Are you familiar with? Oh, wow, cool. So this is all fresh and new for you.
It is. Is this temple still existing?
Yes, it is. In fact, it's in the village Remuna. This is after Lord Chaitanya took sannyas and he left his home. Nityananda kind of tricked him, brought him back in so they could have a 2-week long festival, and all the people in this village got to see him again. And so they spent 2 weeks of just wild dancing and feasting. Lord Chaitanya's mother demanded, I want to cook every day while he's here because I'm never going to see him again. So it was this wonderful festival of everybody being so close, but imminent. Lord Chaitanya is about to leave. We're never going to see him again. He's taken sannyas. Look, he's cut all of his hair off. But still, he looks beautiful. So this is after all of that. Then he leaves, they walk, and this is like probably maybe 2 weeks into the walk. They stop at the temple Remuna. And they hear about this. And Madhavendra Puri is the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master. So it would be like me telling a story about Bhaktisiddhanta or Mochu telling a story about Srila Prabhupada like Mochu coming to New York City and sitting at the tree in Tompkins Square Park and saying, this is the tree where Prabhupada sat, and then telling stories about that, and everybody would really feel it. And Mochu would be in total ecstasy, like he always is when he's repeating a story that we've read. And let's see. And once I was at a festival in New Vrindavan, and I think it was, anyway, Anutama was giving a communications seminar, and he had us break up into little groups. And one of the groups I was in, there was someone who had grown up in Remuna. And he said, yeah, we would visit that temple when we were kids, and we loved the sweet rice. And when I became a devotee, and then I read this story, I felt like, wow, this This is my childhood. This is my hometown, Ramuna. Um, so he was happy. He felt like uh, kind of a celebrity. He had celebrity status with amongst devotees, being from Ramuna. All right, Anandi, are you ready to read?
Sure.
So go ahead from text 120.
If without my asking a little sweet rice is given to me, I can then taste it and make a similar preparation to offer my Lord Gopala. Oh, how many things do we read?
Let's read 5 each.
Oh, sorry. Madhavendra Puri became greatly ashamed when he desired to taste the sweet rice, and he immediately began to think of Lord Vishnu. While he was thus thinking of Lord Vishnu, the offering was completed and the arati ceremony began. After the arati was finished, Madhavendra Puri offered his obeisances to the deity and then left the temple. He did not say anything more to anyone. Madhavendra Puri avoided begging. He was completely unattached and indifferent to material things. If without his begging someone offered him some food, he would eat, otherwise he would fast. A Paramahamsa like Madhavendra Puri is always satisfied in the loving service of the Lord. Material hunger and thirst cannot impede his activities. When he desired to taste a little sweet rice offered to the deity, he considered that he had committed an offense by desiring to eat what was being offered to the deity. Madhavendra Puri left the temple and sat down in the village marketplace, which was vacant. Sitting there, he began to chant. In the meantime, the temple priest laid the deity down to rest.
Um, Thomas, would you like to read the next 5 verses?
Sure. Finishing his daily duties, the priest went to take rest. In a dream, he saw the Gopinath deity come to talk to him, and he spoke as follows. O priest, please get up and open the door of the temple. I have kept one pot of sweet rice for the sannyasi, Madhavendra Puri. This pot of sweet rice is just behind my cloth curtain. You did not see it because of my tricks. A sannyasi, oh, go ahead. Did you say something, Ananda? Nandi?
No, I was just laughing.
Oh,
I was laughing.
this story
I'm
sounds,
sorry.
no, it's okay. The story sounds familiar now that I've read this part. A sannyasi named Madhavendra Puri is sitting in the vacant marketplace. Please take this pot of sweet rice from behind me and deliver it to him. Awakening from the dream, the priest immediately rose from bed and thought it was wise to take a bath before entering the deity's room. He then opened the temple door.
Trevor, did you find where we are?
Yeah.
Okay. You'll be after Muchu.
Okay.
Isaac, go ahead.
According to the deity's directions, the priest found the pot of sweet rice behind the cloth curtain. He removed the pot and mopped up the place where it had been kept. He then went out of the temple. Closing the door of the temple, he went to the village with the pot of sweet rice. He called out in every stall in search of Madhavendra Puri. Holding the pot of sweet rice, the priest called, "Will he whose name is Madhavendra Puri please come and take this pot? Gopinath has stolen this pot of sweet rice for you." The priest continued, "Would the sannyasi whose name is Madhavendra Puri please come and take this pot of sweet rice and enjoy the prasadam with great happiness? You are the most fortunate person within these 3 worlds." Hearing this invitation, Madhavendra Puri came out and identified himself. The priest then delivered the pot of sweet rice and offered his obeisances, falling flat before him.
Muchu?
When the story about the pot of sweet rice was explained to him in detail, Sri Madhavendra Puri at once became absorbed in ecstatic love for Krishna. Upon seeing the ecstatic loving symptoms manifest in Madhavendra Puri, the priest was struck with wonder. He could understand why Krishna had become so much obliged to him, and he saw that Krishna's action was befitting. The priest offered his obeisances to Madhavendra Puri and returned to the temple. Then, in ecstasy, Madhavendra Puri ate the sweet rice offered to him by Lord Krishna.
Okay, let's go back to text 137. There's purport. So read the translation again.
Upon seeing the ecstatic loving symptoms manifest in Madhavendra, the priest was struck with wonder. He could understand why Krishna had become so much obliged to him, and he saw that Krishna's action was befitting.
Okay, Trevor, read 2 sentences from the purport. Oh, you got to unmute.
Sorry. A devotee can bring Krishna perfectly under his control. This is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 14th chapter, verse 3. Ajita jitopi asitais trilokyam. Krishna is never conquered by anyone, but a devotee can conquer him through devotional service.
As stated in the Brahma Samhita, Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto. One cannot understand Krishna simply by reading Vedic literature. Anandi?
Whose turn?
The purport?
Oh, although all Vedic literature is meant for understanding Krishna, one cannot understand Krishna without being a lover of Krishna. Therefore, along with the reading of Vedic literature, Swadhyaya, one must engage in devotional worship of the deity, Archana Vidi.
And Thomas? We can't hear you.
Yeah, together these will enhance the devotee's transcendental understanding of devotional service. Shravanadi Sudha Chitti, Share Udaya. Love of Godhead is dormant within everyone's heart, and if one simply follows the standard process of devotional service, it is awakened. But foolish, mundane people who simply read about Krishna mistakenly think that he is immoral or criminal.
Okay, so why did Prabhupada saying? What's going on here? It was all nice stuff, but what does that have to do with what we just read in the verse? I don't get it. I'm lost. Does anybody see what's going on here? Hey, Suprita's here. We're on text 137, Suprita, chapter 4.
Okay.
Does anyone see any connection? What is Prabhupada getting at? He's not just going to speak random stuff. It's got something to do with the verse. The first one to get it will win a prize.
Is it a pot of sweet rice?
Yeah, you win a pot of sweet rice. Krishna will steal a pot for you. You'll see. We're going to have to go through it again. Upon seeing the ecstatic loving symptoms manifested in Madhavendra Puri. I mean, honestly, I am puzzled. What's he saying here? Upon seeing the ecstatic loving symptoms manifested in Madhavendra Puri, the priest was struck with wonder. He could understand why Krishna had become so much obliged to him, and he saw that Krishna's action was befitting. So the way it started off, but putting Krishna perfectly under his control, this is explained in the Bhagavatam. Ajita jitopi, that means the unconquerable Lord becomes conquered by the devotee. Krishna is never conquered by anyone, but the devotee can conquer him through devotional service. Okay, I get that. I see the connection there. But he just kind of takes off. Let's see. He quotes Brahma Samhita, Vedesha Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto. It's hard to understand Krishna simply through the Vedas, but with the help of a devotee, one can get there. One cannot understand Krishna without being a lover of Krishna. Therefore, along with the reading of Vedic literature, one must engage in devotional worship of the action of deity. Okay, now I'm starting to get it.
Yeah, me
Together,
too.
the
I think
devotee's
so.
understanding of devotional service. All right, yeah. Okay, And then he brings in Shravanadi Shuddha Chete Kare Udai, which means by hearing, Shravanadi. Shravana Adi means beginningless, so like hearing, etc. Shuddha Chete means the consciousness becomes purified. Kare Udai, and then Krishna consciousness. Udai means to rise, like the sun. The sun rises in the morning. Love of Godhead is dormant within everyone's heart, and if one simply follows the standard process of devotional service, it is awakened. And then Prabhupada throws in that last sentence. It's like, what? But foolish, mundane people who simply read about Krishna mistakenly think that he is immoral or criminal. Okay. Now I sort of get it. Anybody else have any insights from that?
Well, when you're in love with Krishna and you understand his love for you, then all of those pastimes take on a whole new quality, where a mundane person is just reading them as stories where Krishna seems like a precocious child or a illicit lover of some kind. But love gives us a new set of lenses by which to see him.
Yeah. And now I get it. Because in this pastime, Krishna had stolen sweet rice again. Krishna is always stealing butter and stuff, but now this deity sweet rice, and so someone may criticize the deity that stole. This is immoral. But if you love someone, no matter what they do, even if everybody condemns them, you just think it's great. And your love can be completely irrational. It's dangerous sometimes. And political leaders are like that. They have groups of people that love them no matter what they do. And the more bizarre and odd things they do, the more people seem to like them. But with Krishna, it's entirely different because Krishna is always purifying. The example is given that just by chanting Krishna's names, we become free from bad habits. So how can Krishna be bad? All right, Muchu. Oh, you're not busy there, but you can get back to your reading of the text. So 138.
The priest offered his obeisance to Madhavendra Puri and returned to the temple. Then, in ecstasy, Madhavendra Puri ate the sweet rice offered to him by Krishna. After this, Madhavendra Puri washed the pot and broke it into pieces. He then bound all the pieces in his outer cloth and kept them nicely. Each day, Madhavendra Puri would eat one piece of that earthen pot, and after eating it, he would immediately become overwhelmed with ecstasy. There were wonderful stories.
Having broken the pot and bound the pieces in his cloth, Madhavendra Puri began to think, the Lord has given me a pot of sweet rice, and when the people hear of this tomorrow morning, there will be great crowds. Thinking this, Sri Madhavendra Puri offered his obeisances to Gopinath on the spot and left Ramuna before morning. Walking and walking, Madhavendra Puri finally reached Jagannath Puri, which is also known as Nilachala. There he saw Lord Jagannath and was overwhelmed with loving ecstasy. When Madhavendra Puri was overwhelmed in the ecstasy of love of Godhead, he sometimes stood up and sometimes fell to the ground. Sometimes he laughed, danced, and sang. In this way, he enjoyed transcendental bliss by seeing the Jagannath deity. When Madhavendra Puri came to Jagannath Puri, people were aware of his transcendental reputation. Therefore, crowds of people came and offered him all sorts of respect and devotion.
Suprita, are you ready?
150, right? 151.
146.
146. Okay. Even though one may not like it, reputation as ordained by providence comes to him. Indeed, one's transcendental reputation is known throughout the entire world. Being afraid of his reputation, Madhavendra Puri fled from Ramuna. But the reputation brought by love of Godhead is so supreme that it goes along with the devotee as if following him.
There's a purport
Madhavendra
to
Puri
this.
wanted to
We're gonna read the purport to text 147. So almost all the conditioned souls within the material world are envious. Jealous people generally turn against one who automatically gains some reputation. Go ahead, Anandi.
This is natural for jealous people. Consequently, when a devotee is fit to receive worldly reputation, he is envied by many people.
Thomas?
Myself. This is quite natural. When a person out of humility does not desire fame, people generally think him quite humble and consequently give him all kinds of fame. Actually, a Vaishnava does not hanker after fame or a great reputation. Madhavendra Puri, the king of Vaishnavas, bore his reputation, but he wanted to keep himself outside of the vision of the general populace. He wanted to cover his real identity as a great devotee of the Lord, but when people saw him overwhelmed in the ecstasy of love of Godhead, they naturally gave credit to him.
Isaac?
Actually, a first-class reputation is due Madhavendra Puri because he was a most confidential devotee of the Lord. Sometimes Asajiya presents himself as being void of desires for reputation, pratishta, in order to become famous as a humble man. Such people cannot actually attain the platform of celebrated Vaishnavas.
Okay, interesting little psychology. When we don't want fame, it chases after us. And then some people put on a show of not wanting fame. It doesn't work. And for Madhavendra Puri, how did it say it? It goes along with the devotee as if following him. Okay, next verse.
Madhavendra Puri wanted to leave Jagannath Puri because the people were honoring him as a great devotee. However, this threatened to hinder his collecting sandalwood for the Gopala deity. Sri Madhavendra Puri told all the servants of Lord Jagannath and all the great devotees there that the story of the appearance of Sri Gopal. When all the devotees at Jagannath Puri heard that the Gopal deity wanted sandalwood, in great pleasure they all endeavored to collect it.
Anandi?
Those who were acquainted with government officers met with them and begged for camphor and sandalwood, which they collected. One Brahmana and one servant were given to Madhavendra Puri just to carry the sandalwood. He was also given the necessary traveling expenses. To get past the toll collectors along the way, Madhavendra Puri was supplied with the necessary release papers from government offices. The papers were placed in his hand. In this way, Madhavendra Puri started for Vrindavan with the burden of sandalwood, and after some days he again reached the village of Ramuna and the Gopinatha temple there. When Madhavendra Puri reached the temple of Gopinath, he offered his respectful obeisances many times at the lotus feet of the Lord. In the ecstasy of love, he began to dance and sing without cessation.
Go ahead, Thomas. You know the program now.
Whose turn is it?
Thomas.
Oh, I'm sorry. You cut out a little bit there. I apologize. 156, right?
Yes.
When the priest of Gopinath saw Madhavendra Puri again, he offered all respects to him, and giving him the sweet rice prasadam, made him eat. Madhavendra Puri took rest that night in the temple, but toward the end of the night, he had another dream. Madhavendra Puri dreamed that Gopal came before him and said, "O Madhavendra Puri, I have already received all the sandalwood and camphor. Now just grind all the sandalwood together with the camphor and then smear the pulp on the body of Gopinath daily until it is finished. There is no difference between my body and Gopinath's body. They are one and the same. Therefore, if you smear the sandalwood pulp on the body of Gopinath, you will naturally also smear it on my body. Thus, the temperature of my body will be reduced."
You should not hesitate to act according to my order. Believing in me, just do what is needed. After giving these instructions, Gopala disappeared, and Madhavendra Puri awoke. He immediately called for all the servants of Gopinath, and they came before him. Madhavendra Puri said, "Smear the body of Gopinath with this camphor and sandalwood I have brought for Gopal in Vrindavan. Do this regularly every day. If the sandalwood pulp is smeared over the body of Gopinath, then Gopal will be cooled. After all, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is completely independent. His order is all-powerful." The servants of Gopinath became very pleased to hear that in the summer all the sandalwood pulp would be used to anoint the body of Gopinath.
Madhavendra Puri said, It's my turn.
Yeah. Go ahead.
These two assistants will regularly grind the sandalwood, and you should also get 2 other people to help. I shall pay their salaries. In this way, Gopinathji was supplied ground sandalwood pulp daily. The servants of Gopinath were very pleased with this. In this way, the sandalwood pulp was smeared over the body of Gopinath until the whole pulp was finished. Madhavendra Puri stayed there all that time. At the end of summer, Madhavendra Puri returned to Jagannath Puri, where he remained with great pleasure during the whole period of Chaturmas. Thus, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally praised the nectarian characteristics of Madhavendra Puri, and while he related all this to the devotees, he personally relished.
Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Nityananda Prabhu to judge whether there was anyone within the world as fortunate as Madhavendra Puri. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Madhavendra Puri was so fortunate that Krishna personally appeared before him on the plea of delivering milk. 3 times the Lord gave orders to Madhavendra Puri in dreams. Being obliged because of the loving affairs of Madhavendra Puri, Lord Krishna himself appeared as the Gopal deity, and accepting his service, he liberated the whole world. On account of Madhavendra Puri, Lord Gopinath stole the pot of sweet rice. Thus he became famous as Kshira Kora, the thief who stole the sweet rice. Madhavendra Puri smeared the sandalwood pulp over the body of Gopinath, and in this way he was overpowered with love of Godhead.
Is it my turn?
Yes.
In the provinces of India governed by the Muslims, there was much inconvenience in traveling with sandalwood and camphor. Because of this, Madhavendra Puri might have gotten into trouble. This became known to the Gopal deity. The Lord is very merciful and attached to his devotees. So when Gopinatha was covered with sandalwood pulp, Madhavendra Puri's labor became successful. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu placed the standard of Madhavendra Puri's intense love before Nityananda Prabhu for judgment. All his loving activities are uncommon. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Indeed, one is struck with wonder to hear of his activities." Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, Sri Madhavendra Puri used to remain alone. He was completely renounced and always very silent. He was uninterested in everything material, and for fear of talking about mundane things, he always lived without a companion. After receiving the transcendental orders of Gopala, this great personality traveled thousands of miles just to collect sandalwood by begging.
Although Madhavendra Puri was hungry, he would not beg food to eat. This renounced person carried a load of sandalwood for the sake of Sri Gopal. Without considering his personal comforts, Madhavendra Puri carried one mound, about 82 pounds of sandalwood, and 20 tolas, about 8 ounces of camphor, to smear over the body of Gopal. This transcendental pleasure was just for him. Since there were restrictions against taking the sandalwood out of the Orissa province, the toll official confiscated the stock, but Madhavendra Puri showed him the release papers given by the government and consequently escaped difficulties. Madhavendra Puri was not at all anxious during the long journey to Vrindavan through the provinces governed by the Muslims and filled with unlimited numbers of watchmen. Although Madhavendra Puri did not have a farthing with him, he was not afraid to pass by the toll officers. His only enjoyment was in carrying the load of sandalwood to Vrindavan for Gopal. Anandi, your turn.
This is the natural result of intense love of Godhead. The devotee does not consider personal inconvenience or impediments. In all circumstances, he wants to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sri Gopal wanted to show how intensely Madhavendra Puri loved Krishna. Therefore, he asked him to go to Nilachala to fetch sandalwood and camphor. With great trouble and after much labor, Madhavendra Puri brought the load of sandalwood to Yamuna. However, he was still very pleased. He discounted all the difficulties. To test the personality of Godhead, ordered him to bring sandalwood from Nilachala. And when Madhavendra Puri passed this examination, the Lord became very merciful to him. Such behavior exhibited in loving service between the devotee and the devotee's lovable object, Sri Krishna, is transcendental. It is not possible for a common man to understand. Common men do not even have the capacity.
Thomas, you're next.
Sure. After saying this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu read the famous verse of Madhavendra Puri. That verse is just like the moon. It has spread illumination all over the world. Continuous rubbing increases the aroma of Malaya sandalwood. Similarly, consideration of this verse increases one's understanding of its importance. As the Kaustuba Mani is considered the most precious of valuable stones, this verse is similarly considered the best of poems dealing with the mellows of devotional service. Actually, this verse was spoken by Srimati Radharani herself, and by her mercy only was it manifest in the world of Madhavendra Puri. Only Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has tasted the poetry of this verse. No fourth man is capable of understanding it.
Madhavendra Puri recited this verse again and again at the end of his material existence. Thus, uttering this verse, he attained the ultimate goal of life. O my Lord, O most merciful Master, O Master of Mathura, when shall I see you again? Because of my not seeing you, my agitated heart has become unsteady. O most beloved one, what shall I do now? When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recited this verse, he immediately fell to the ground unconscious. He was overwhelmed and had no control over himself. When Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fell to the ground in ecstatic love, Lord Nityananda quickly took him on his lap, crying. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then got up again. Exhibiting ecstatic emotions, the Lord began to run here and there, making resounding noises. Sometimes he laughed and sometimes he cried, and sometimes he danced and sang.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could not recite the whole verse. He simply said, Ayudina, Ayudina, repeatedly. Thus, he could not speak, and profuse tears were in his eyes. Trembling, perspiration, drooping fingers, shock, fading of the fatherly luster, disappointment, moroseness, loss of memory, pride, joy, and humility were all visible in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's body. His verse uncovered the door of ecstatic love, and when it was exhibited, all the servants of Gopinath saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dance in ecstasy. When many people crowded around Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he regained his external senses. In the meantime, the offering to the deity had been finished, and there was a resounding arati performance. When the deities were laid down to rest, the priest came out of the temple and offered all 12 pots of sweet rice to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
When all the pots of sweet rice, when all the pots of sweet rice remnants left by Gopinath were placed before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he became very pleased. In order to feed the devotees, he accepted 5 of them. The 7 remaining pots were pushed forward and delivered to the priest. Then the 5 pots of sweet rice the Lord had accepted were distributed among the 5 devotees, and they ate the prasad. Being identical with the Gopinath deity, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had already tasted and eaten the pots of sweet rice. Yet just to manifest devotional service, he again ate the pots of sweet rice as a devotee. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed that night at the temple engaged in congregational chanting. In the morning, after seeing the Mangal Arati performance, he departed. In this way, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally tasted with his own mouth the transcendental qualities of Gopalji, Gopinath, and Sri Madhavendra Puri.
Thus I have described both the transcendental glories of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's affection for his devotees and the highest limit of ecstatic love of God. One who hears this narration with faith and devotion attains the treasure of love of Godhead at the lotus feet of Krishna. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunatha, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadasa, narrate Sri Caitanya Caritamrta following in their footsteps.
Hari Bol. We're going to go on. We're going to read the next chapter. But let's recap what we just read. What do you think of that verse and the build up to the verse? How by rubbing sandalwood, the more you rub it, more fragrance comes out. And the more you consider the verse, the more meaning you get from it. And it said that just as the Kaustubha money is the most valuable gem, this verse is the most valuable verse. And it said it was spoken by Srimati Radharani and Madhavendra, and by, let's see, what kind of mercy it was? By her mercy, it came through the words of Madhavendra Puri. Lord Chaitanya personally tasted it and said, there is no 4th person that has understood this verse. So shall we look at the verse again? It's text 197. And there's a purport to it. And we can look at it in the Sanskrit.
Bengali.
Okay. Aidina dayardranata he, maturanata kadavalokyase, hridayam tvad lokakataram, daita brahmyati kim karonyaham. Suprita, it's your turn to read, so read the translation to this.
197, right? O my Lord, O most merciful Master, O Master of Mathura, when shall I see you again? Because of my not seeing you, my agitated heart has become unsteady. O most beloved one, what shall I do now?
Anybody see anything in here? Anybody have any idea why Lord Chaitanya is so excited about this verse? He liked it so much that he couldn't even say it. He just said the first four syllables over and over again. That was enough. Then he fell to the ground, and Nityananda picked him up and put him in his lap, and yeah, he went to pieces. So we'll read the purport. We take turn reading 2 sentences each. Go ahead, Suprita. You read 2 sentences. I'll follow you.
The uncontaminated devotees who strictly depend on the Vedanta philosophy are divided into 4 sampradayas or transcendental parties. Out of the 4 sampradayas, the Sri Madhvacharya Sampradaya was accepted by Madhavendra Puri.
Thus, he took sannyas according to parampara, the disciplic succession, beginning from Madhvacharya down to the spiritual master of Madhavendra Puri, the acharya named Lakshmipati. There was no realization of devotional service in love.
Sri Madhavendra Puri introduced the conception of conjugal love for the first time in the Madhvacharya Sampradaya. And this conclusion of the Madhvacharya Sampradaya was revealed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he toured southern India and met the Tatavadi, who supposedly belonged to the Madhvacharya Sampradaya.
When Sri Krishna left Vrindavan and accepted the kingdom of Mathura, Srimati Radharani, out of ecstatic feeling of separation, expressed how Krishna can be loved in separation. Thus, devotional service in separation is central to this verse.
Worship in separation is considered by the Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya to be the topmost level of devotional service. According to this conception, the devotee thinks of himself as very poor and neglected by the Lord.
Gochu.
Sorry, which purport?
Oh, no. Trevor.
Thus he addresses the Lord as Tina Dayadranatha, as did Madhavendra Puri. Such an ecstatic feeling is the highest form of devotional service.
Because Krishna had gone to Mathura, Srimati Radharani was very much affected, and she expressed herself thus: "My dear Lord, because of your separation, my mind has become overly agitated. Now tell me, what can I do? I am very poor, and you are very merciful. So kindly have compassion upon me, and let me know when I shall see you."
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was always expressing the ecstatic emotions of Srimati Radharani that she exhibited when she saw Uddhava at Vrindavan. Similar feelings experienced by Madhavendra Puri are expressed in this verse. Anandi.
Oh, therefore, Vaishnavas in the Gaudiya Madhava Sampradaya say that the ecstatic feelings experienced by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during his appearance came from Sri Madhavendra Puri through Ishvara Puri. All the devotees in the line of the Gaudiya Madhava Sampradaya accept these principles of devotional service.
Okay, so this verse is foundational to our to what we're all about. So we'll look at it one more time, the Sanskrit here, and we'll read it and we'll try to contain our emotions. We're just not there yet, though. When Lord Chaitanya reads this verse, he sees things in it, and he can't help himself. Let's see. This morning I read Caitanya Caritamrta with another group, and we are a few chapters ahead. And it talks about how When you reach the ecstatic level of devotional service, then your bhakti flows like a river, unimpeded by anything. That river will go to the ocean. It'll go around everything, it'll go under everything. Whatever it needs to do, it's always going to go downhill to the ocean. And so when we reach the ecstatic stage, then our bhakti will act like that. It will just flow. Right now we're kind of pushing it up the hill. We're practicing sadhana, and we have to make regulations for ourselves. Okay, so here we go. Just a little taste of what's coming up. Might be in this lifetime, it might be in the next. So, Aidina Dayadranat Dahe, Maturanata Kadavalokyase, Hridayam Tva Naloka Kataram, Daita Brahmyati Kim Karumyatam. O my Lord, O most merciful Master, O Master of Mathura, when shall I see you again? Because of my not seeing you, my agitated heart has become unsteady. O most beloved one, what shall I do now? And let's read the next chapter. Trying to get there. The activities of Shakti Gopal. Okay, so they're going to stop at another temple along the way. And did you know that there's a recording of Prabhupada telling all these stories in 1968 in San Francisco? 68, it might even be 67. He's talking with Hayagriva because they want to put on a drama. And Prabhupada says, all right, here, this will be the script for the Lord Chaitanya play. And it's super, super long and really involved. And within that is the story of Lord Chaitanya taking sannyas, visiting this temple that we just read about. And then now they're going to visit another temple. And then at that point, Hayagriva says, well, don't you think this is a lot just to have two long narrations? There's not going to be a lot of action on the stage. Prabhupada said, well, you could have people acting it out. You could have someone sing it as a song, like those songs that you have sung. They'd made a song about Narada Muni. Maybe you heard about that one. And it's pretty wild. You might think I'm kind of loony, but his name is Narada Muni. And it's about that way out spaceman who travels throughout the... It's really like wild hippie kind of stuff. And they made it into a song and they recorded it and played it for Prabhupada. And it's got, you know, words like far out in there and the way out spaceman. Prabhupada listened to it and he said, this is very nice. This is very good.
Where would we find that?
What's that?
Where we could find that?
I remember seeing it posted somewhere. You can research it. I'm sure I'm looking for it right now. It looks like he's looking for it. He's hot on it. But he told Hayagriva, you could just tell the story in song. And he's like, okay. And then, so here we go into another story about Shakti Gopal. And these stories were important for Prabhupada. Well, Prabhupada saw the importance of these stories for us to show that the deity is alive and will reciprocate with the devotee. And okay, I know Lord Chaitanya just recapped that whole 2 chapters. Or was it 1 chapter? The activities of Madhavendra Puri. Yeah, it was 1 full chapter. How many times did he get a message from Krishna, Madhavendra Puri? Let's go through it. What was the
3.
first time? 3?
Oh no, he had 3 dreams. 3 dreams.
Three
Three
dreams.
dreams.
Okay. How many times does he actually contact Krishna? Just throw out a number. I'll just say maybe 5.
Including the deity?
Well, like, there's a personal connection, a communication from Krishna. First he meets the boy that brings him the milk. And then he has the dream where the boy comes and says, I'm in the bushes, come and take care of me.
Then
Sets
they
up
go
the
get
date.
the deity.
Then the dream comes again. The deity says, I'm still really hot. I need some sandalwood. So he goes, and then the deity realizes this guy wants some of my sweet rice, but he's too humble to ask for it. And he feels like he's offensive just for thinking of tasting it. But I know he only wants to taste it for me. So there's the 4th one. Then let's see. And he goes, he gets the sandalwood, comes back while he's at Ramuna. So it's 5 times. Right. But 3 is right too. 3 times the deity spoke to him. But 5 times he had a direct contact. And these were all like deity-driven revelations. Prabhupada thought that was really important. We just read about Krishna speaking to the devotee. Was that in this group? Something in the Bhagavad Gita?
Mitra, can I say something?
Yeah.
About when he was talking about rubbing the sandalwood brings the aroma out. It seemed like that he was telling the story to get to the culmination point where he recited the verse and then he went into the ecstatic love, because the story was all about going to get the sandalwood and everything that he went through to get it. But he was relating that as a metaphor about the verse that Srimati Radharani spoke, and then Lord Caitanya spoke at Krishna Das. Kaviraj was saying that, and then Lord Caitanya spoke it and then fell into a trance. Like as he was telling the story about Madhavendra Puri, seemed kind of connected, kind of.
Yeah. Krishna Das Kaviraj.
Hare Krishna, I have to go.
Yeah,
Oh,
me
no.
too.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too, Mitra.
What are we going to do without Isaac and Anandi?
Hare Krishna.
Oh,
Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
well, thanks for joining us. Okay, we'll go on another 15 minutes or so. Now we got a smaller group, so we can do whatever we want. Read as much as we want. Okay, I just wanted to recap that. Like, wow, Madhavendra Puri, and Prabhupada just wanted us to see that these deities are alive and that they will reciprocate with us. So here we go, another deity reciprocation story. And let's see, Suprita, I think you go ahead. You read the first 5.
Okay. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of God, Brahmanya Deva, who appeared as Sakshi Gopal to benefit a Brahmana. For 100 days he traveled through the country walking on his own legs. Thus his activities are wonderful. All glories to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to Nityananda Prabhu. All glories to Sri Advaita Prabhu. And all glories to all the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Walking and walking, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his party finally arrived at Yajapura on the river Vaitarani. There he saw the temple of Varahadev and offered his obeisances unto him. In the temple of Varahadev, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu engaged in chanting and dancing and offered prayers. He passed that night in the temple. Afterwards, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the town of Kataka to see the temple of the witness Gopala. When he saw the deity of Gopala, he was very much pleased by his beauty.
While there, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu engaged in chanting and dancing for some time, and being overwhelmed, he offered many prayers to Gopal. That night, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed in the temple of Gopal, and along with all the devotees, he heard the narration of the witness Gopal with great pleasure. Previously, when Nityananda Prabhu had toured all over India to see different places of pilgrimage, he also had come to see Shakshi Gopal at Katak. At that time, Nityananda Prabhu had heard the story of Shakshi Gopal from the townspeople. He now recited this again, and Lord Chaitanya heard the narration with great pleasure. Formerly, at Vidyanagar in South India, there were two Brahmins who made a long tour to see different places of pilgrimage. Go ahead, Thomas.
First of all, they visited Gaya, then Kashi, then Prayaga. Finally, with great pleasure, they came to Mathura. After reaching Mathura, they started visiting the different forests of Vrindavan and came to Govardhan Hill. They visited all 12 forests, vanas, and at last came to the town of Vrindavan. In the village of Panchakroshi, Vrindavana, at the site where the Govinda temple is now situated, there was a great temple where gorgeous worship of Gopal was performed. After taking baths at different bathing spaces along the river Yamuna, such as Keshi Gata and Kalya Gata, the pilgrims visited the temple of Gopal. Afterwards, they took rest in that temple. The beauty of the Gopal deity stole away their minds, and feeling great happiness, they remained there for 2 or 4 days.
Murtu?
If of one of the two Brahmanas was an old man, and the other was young. The young man was assisting the old one. Indeed, the young Brahmana was always rendered service to the older one, and the old man, being very satisfied with his service, was pleased with him. The older man told the younger, "You have rendered various types of service to me. You have assisted me in traveling to all these places of pilgrimage. Even my own son does not render such service. By your mercy, I did not become fatigued while on this tour. If I did not show you any respect, I would be ungrateful. Therefore, I promise to give you my daughter in charity."
The younger Brahmin replied, "My dear sir, please hear me. You are saying something very unusual. Such a thing never happens. You are a most aristocratic family man, well educated and very rich. I am not at all aristocratic, and I am without a decent education and have no wealth. Sir, I am not a suitable bridegroom for your daughter. I render service to you only for the satisfaction of Krishna. Lord Krishna is very much pleased by service rendered to the Brahmanas, and when the Lord is pleased, the opulence of one's devotional service increases." The older Brahmana replied, "My dear boy, do not doubt me. I will give you my daughter in charity. I have already decided this."
The young Brahmana said, "You have a wife and sons, and you have a large circle of relatives and friends. Without the consent of all your friends and relatives, it is not possible to give me your daughter in charity. Just consider the story of Queen Rukmini and her father Bhishmaka. King Bhishmaka wanted to give his daughter Rukmini in charity to Krishna, but Rukmi, his eldest son, objected. Therefore, he could not carry out his decision. The elderly Brahmana said, "My daughter is my own property. If I choose to give my property to someone who has the power to stop me? My dear boy, I will give my daughter to you in charity, and I will neglect the position of all others. Don't doubt me in this regard. Just accept my proposal.
The younger Brahmin replied, if you have decided to give your young daughter to me, then say so before the Gopal deity. Coming before Gopal, the elder Brahmin said, my dear Lord, please witness that I have given my daughter to this boy. Then the younger Brahmin addressed the deity, saying, my dear Lord, you are my witness. I shall call for you to testify if it is necessary later on. After these talks, the two Brahmins started for home. As usual, the young Brahmin accompanied the elderly Brahmin as if the older Brahmin were a guru and rendered him service in various ways. After returning to Vidyanagara, each Brahmin went to his respective home. After some time, the elderly Brahmin became very anxious.
He began to think, I have given my word to the Brahmana in a holy place, and what I promised will certainly come to pass. I must now disclose this to my wife, sons, other relatives, and friends. Thus one day the elderly Brahmana called for a meeting of all of his relatives and friends, and before them all, he narrated what had taken place in front of Gopal. When those who belonged to the family circle heard the narration of the old Brahmana, they made exclamations showing their disappointment. They all requested that he not take such a proposal again. They unanimously agreed, if you offer your daughter to a degraded family, your aristocracy will be lost. When people hear of this, they will make jokes and laugh at you. The elderly Brahmana said, how can I undo the promise I made in a holy place while on pilgrimage? Whatever may happen, I must give him my daughter in charity.
Would you?
The relatives unanimously said, if you if you give your daughter to that boy, we shall give up all connection with you. Indeed, his wife and sons declared, if such a thing happens, we shall take poison and die. The elderly Brahmana said, if I do not give my daughter to the young Brahmana, he will call Sri Gopalji as a witness. Thus he will take my daughter by force, and in that case my religious principles will become meaningless. His son replied, the deity may be a witness, but he is in a distant country. How can he come to bear witness against you? Why are you so anxious over this? You do not have to flatly deny that you spoke such a thing. There's no need to make a false statement. Simply say that you do not remember what you said. If you simply say, I do not remember, I shall take care of the rest by argument. I shall defeat the young Brahmana.
When the elderly Brahmana heard this, his mind became very much agitated. Feeling helpless, he simply turned his attention to the lotus feet of Gopal. The elderly Brahmin prayed, my dear Lord Gopal, I have taken shelter of your lotus feet, and therefore I request you to please protect my religious principles from disturbance, and at the same time save my kinsman from dying. The next day, the elderly Brahmin was thinking deeply about this matter when the young Brahmin came to his house. The young Brahmin came to him and offered respectful obeisances. Then, very humbly folding his hands, he spoke as follows. You have promised to give your daughter in charity to me. Now you do not say anything. What is your conclusion?
After the young Brahmana submitted this statement, the elderly Brahmana remained silent. Taking this opportunity, his son immediately came out with a stick to strike the younger man. The son said, oh, you are most degraded. You want to marry my sister, just like a dwarf who wants to catch the moon. Seeing the stick in the hand of the son, the younger Brahmana fled. The next day, however, he gathered together all the people of the village. All the people of the village then called for the elderly Brahmana and brought him to their meeting place. The young Brahmana then began to speak before them as follows. This gentleman has promised to hand over his daughter to me, yet now he does not follow his promise. Please ask him about his behavior.
All the people gathered there asked the elderly Brahmin, If you have already promised to give your daughter in charity, why are you not fulfilling your promise? You have given your word of honor. The elderly Brahmin said, My dear friends, please hear what I have to submit. I do not exactly remember making a promise like that. When the elderly Brahmin's son heard this, he took the opportunity to juggle some words. Becoming very impudent, he stood before the assembly and spoke as follows. While touring various holy places of pilgrimage, my father carried much money. Seeing the money, this rogue decided to take it away. There was no one besides this man with my father. Giving him an intoxicant known as tutura to eat, this rogue made my father mad.
Having taken all my father's money, this rogue claimed that it was taken by some thief. Now he's claiming that my father has promised to give him his daughter in charity. All of you assembled here are gentlemen. Please judge whether it is befitting to offer this poor Brahmana my father's daughter. Hearing all these statements, all the people gathered there became a little doubtful. They thought it quite possible that because of attraction for riches, one might give up his religious principles. At that time, the young Brahmana said, My dear gentlemen, please hear. Just to gain victory in an argument, this man is lying. Being very satisfied with my service, this Brahmana said to me of his own accord, I promise to hand over my daughter to you.
At that time, I forbade him to do this, telling him, O best of the Brahmanas, I am not a fit husband for your daughter, whereas you are a land dweller, a rich man, belonging to an aristocratic family. I am a poor man, uneducated and with no claim to aristocracy. Still, this Brahmana insisted again and again. He asked me to accept this proposal, saying, I have given my daughter. Please accept her. I then said, Please hear. You are a lone Brahmana. Your wife, friends, and relatives will never agree to this proposal. My dear sir, you will not be able to fulfill your promise. Your promise will be broken. Yet again and again the Brahmana emphasized the promise.
I have offered you my daughter. Do not hesitate. She is my daughter, and I shall give her to you. Who can forbid me? At that time, I concentrated. Once again. At that time, I concentrated my mind and requested the Brahmana to make the promise before the Gopala deity. And this gentleman said in front of the Gopala deity, My dear Lord, please bear witness. I have offered my daughter to this Brahmana in charity. Accepting the Gopala deity as my witness, I then submitted the following at his lotus feet. If this Brahmana later hesitates to give me his daughter, my dear Lord, I shall call on you as a witness. Please note this with care and attention.
Thus I have called upon a great personality in this transaction. I have asked the Supreme Godhead to be my witness. The entire world accepts the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Taking this opportunity, the elderly Brahmana immediately confirmed that this was true. He said, If Gopala personally comes here to serve as a witness, I shall surely give my daughter to the young Brahmana. The elderly Brahmana thought, Since Lord Krishna is very merciful, he will certainly come to prove my statement. The atheistic son thought, It is not possible for Gopala to come and bear witness. Thinking thus, the father and the son agreed.
The young Brahmin took this opportunity to speak. Please write this down on paper in black and white so that you may not again change your word of honor. All the assembled people got this statement down in black and white, and taking the signatures of agreement from both of them served as the mediators. The young Brahmin then said, Will all you gentlemen present please hear me? This elderly Brahmin is certainly truthful and is following religious principles. He had no desire to break his promise. Fearing that his kinsman would commit suicide, he deviated from the truth. By the piety of the elderly Brahmin, I shall call the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a witness. Thus I shall keep this promise intact. Oh, that's so cool. He's saying, I'm going to bring the deity here, but it's because this guy is so pure-hearted. He's not angry at the elderly Brahmin at all. So let's Let's see, read one more verse, Thomas.
Hearing the emphatic statement of the younger Brahmana, some atheists in the meeting began to cut jokes. However, someone else said, "After all, the Lord is merciful, and if he likes, he can come."
I think we're gonna stop here. A little cliffhanger. Can you guys handle that? We got to bring you back tomorrow. What's gonna happen?
I've listened to this one.
You know the
There's
story?
a-
Don't
yeah.
give it away. Don't give it away.
Okay. It's a good one.
Yeah, it's really good. Okay, and it's so good to read it from the original. I mean, we've all seen different books put together with pictures and kids' stories, but I like to read it from the original. And you can look at the Bengali and, okay. And I was just thinking how this time around, I used to identify as the younger Brahmin because I used to be younger. And now I'm thinking like how the older one is thinking. How you get caught up in family things and people make threats and you're stuck, and sometimes you just to keep the family together, you have to make concessions, and it really hurts. It was so hard for that Brahmin to, his family was going to commit suicide, so he couldn't do what he had promised, but he was thinking, please, Krishna, rescue me, help me out. And the young Brahmin knew what was going on. And that's what's so cool, is people not writing others off like, you promised this, you're a bad person. Yeah, they got it. Okay, anyone else have anything to say about this?
I was wondering where you find that verse from the last chapter, the Sanskrit verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Which Sanskrit verse?
The one that Lord Chaitanya repeated.
Oh, well, that's not from the Bhagavatam. That's from Madhavendra Puri.
Okay.
Find it in chapter 4, text 197.
But didn't he say that Radharani said it? So maybe he's referring to that. Is there another place where we have Radharani saying the verse?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't know. It's not in the Bhagavatam itself. Otherwise, it would say this is from the Bhagavatam. Shall we go back and look at that? Text 197 from the previous chapter.
I'm stuck on it.
You stuck on it? Oh, my Lord, O most merciful Master. Yeah, there's a purport there. But as to the verse itself, there was the whole lead up to it, the history.
It gives the context in that second paragraph, right, of him going to back to Mathura.
Yeah. Toward the end of the paragraph.
Right in the middle, it says, such an ecstatic feeling is the highest form of devotional service. Because Krishna had gone to Mathura, Srimati Radharani was very much affected, and she expressed herself thus, and then it quotes that verse, but it doesn't give a reference in the Srimad Bhagavatam.
There are a lot of writings, authorized people, but most of the ones that we read are from people later on, after Madhavendra Puri. Because that's what he's saying here in this purport, is that there was no mood of conjugal love among human beings. I mean, in devotional service. The Madhavendra Puri is where this comes from.
What about right there, the next sentence? It says, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was always expressing the ecstatic emotion of Srimati Radharani that she exhibited when she saw Uddhava.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a certain, the interaction when she gets upset with him and everything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's in there. Everything's in there. Everything's in the box.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you run that by Mahara, she'll run it by her club acharyas that she's in touch with. And
Yeah, tell her I said Hare Krishna.
I will. And I'll tell her that you asked about this verse. And maybe send her a note with all the references.
Okay.
Because that's the kind of stuff she loves to research. Okay, good. You got us off on a good nectar chase. So what did we leave off on? It's like text 86 or so?
Something like that.
685, chapter 5, 585. All right, who's our secretary? Who's going to remember? Who's going to show up on time tomorrow night?
I'm not responsible.
85?